What is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing my spoiler-free review of Marco Polo Season 2. So Marco Polo Season 2 is now available to stream on Netflix after a 2-year hiatus, it seems like. Maybe because of all the mixed reviews they got, I don't know. But regardless, the show is back and it picks up pieces from the Season 1, only this time it's not through Marco's eyes. The producers were like, you know what, no one's liking this guy, let's put this guy on the sidelines and tell it through someone else. As Marco is not the main character this season. So at the end of the first season, the show hinted at what was in store for this season. And it would appear that the theme would be betrayal, and whew, boy did we get that this season. While this season has only 10 episodes, it still manages to pack so much that nothing is certain. Now that the song Dynasty is done and out, the Khan thinks, well, this is going to be clear sailing, going to conquer the entire world. And that's just not the case this season because Kublay's cousin, Kaidu, he's got his own plans this season. His ambition's getting the best of him, maybe because of his mother. He's like, you know what, this is the perfect time for me to step in and challenge Kublay's authority. He's just not happy with how he gained that authority after Genghis Khan. He thinks that his family's just been put to the side and that Kublai has wrongfully taken the throne. But that is not the only thing that's taking place this season. It appears that a certain somebody, Ahmed, has some plans of his own. We saw at the end of season 1, Ahmed, he's got that mural on the wall. He's holding Kublai's head and he's sitting on top of his throne. So we know there's some backstabbing going on. Question is, when's it gonna happen, and who else is gonna be involved? Because it certainly looked like Mei Lin, the sister of the Chinese chancellor, she might be getting involved in this plot of Ahmed's because, her daughter's still in prison. I mean, she's technically a prisoner, but her daughter is too, and she's willing to do anything for the safety of her daughter, so she's pretty much on board with anything at this point. And then we also have another story. I mean, this season we got like so many plots going on. We also have another plot with Kublay's wife. She's not as innocent and powerless as Kublai might think she is. There's some really dark secrets she's hiding with her and Lady Kokachin. Some 13th century identity theft going on there, and some serious shit is about to break down between them. So season 2 I feel like was an improvement. The show got more serious. It drew back from all that kung fu we saw in the first season, which I still enjoyed, but it just made this season less fictional and more believable. But they're two different seasons. I mean, season 1 focused on the fall of the Song dynasty, and season 2 deals with the internal affairs the Mongols are facing. But there are things that they got right this season that they didn't necessarily hit on in the first season. This time around, we get more insight into some of the characters that kind of were just there in the first season. The show spends more time trying to flesh out the characters of Kokachin and Ahmed and give us more information on their situation and how they got where they are. Does a well job presenting us with all the happenings that revolve around the Khan, which makes this season more of a Kublai Khan story with Marco's presence kind of there, as opposed to season 1, which was pretty much we see what Marco sees. That was season 1. So I feel like that was maybe a smart decision on their behalf to focus on the strongest character of the series of both seasons, look at it from his perspective as opposed to Marco's, whose people don't really care about, I guess. I mean, I didn't have a problem with Marco in season 1. A pretty likable character. Some people didn't find that to be. And Benedict Wong continues to play the role of the Khan really well, like he did in the first season. Continues to be the strongest character of the show, so I think that's why they kind of diverted to him and be like, maybe this guy should carry the show. Ahmed actually gave a really good, riveting performance this season. And they went on to explain the nature of his hatred towards the Khan, because at the end of the season you really don't understand what's the motivation for this guy to hate the Khan, and season 2 goes about explaining that, and It's got some really dark stuff going on there. We get that through. They play out a series of flashbacks, and we see the young Ahmed and what he had to go through in his life, involving, he thought, all his parents were dead, and that might not be the case. Season 1, you really don't really care for Lady Cockatoo. You're like confused. Who the hell is this blue princess? What the hell is this? What is a blue princess? Season 1, not much explanation going on there. Season 2, a little bit better. They do flesh out the character a little bit better. And you generally do care for the character a little bit more because you understand her situation. So in retrospect, Season 2 is stronger, as is the dialogue, the acting, the cinematography, and the costumes continue to be dazzling and spectacular to look at. The show, though, is still far from perfect. I feel like they have to get Marco back into the show somehow. I mean, they can't just keep sidelining him. Season 3, they gotta find a way to get him involved, bring him back. I mean, I think they took a safe approach this season. They heard that people weren't a fan of this Marco fellow, and they put him to the side, and they played it safe. But they can't keep playing it safe. With Season 3, the show's still called Marco Polo. They gotta find a way to get him back and get people to like him. I don't know why people are hating on Marco Polo. I guess he's a pretty boring character. They're developing all these other characters this season. Lady Kokochin and Ahmed, I think those were the two biggest characters that they developed. They started to develop Thousand Eyes a little bit and this whole love relationship that he has. They still need to develop Bayamba and the Prince. Those are the two characters that, at this point, I don't care about. I think they need to flesh out those characters a little bit more. And Marco Polo, they need to do something with him as well. Right now, they could kill the Prince and Bayamba, and I wouldn't really care. They don't add anything to the series. I just generally don't care about those characters. I want to like them, but there's just something missing from that. Their performances or whatever, I don't know. Watching episode 1 of season 2, I didn't even recognize Bayamba because they changed his hairstyle this season. He now looks like a Dothraki warrior. The show still lacks suspense. Season 1 had a handful of episodes where I was binge watching. I think the first 4 episodes I binge watched. Actually, the first 5 episodes I binge watched. I wanted to stop at 4, but that ending to episode 4 just ended on a cliffhanger. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I watched 5. And episode 5 started off promising and then just kind of went downhill after that. At least there were a handful of episodes that had a lot of suspense or just cliffhangers, that they just threw towards the end of the, it was a pretty slow episode and they're like, you know what, let's throw a cliffhanger so they will have to watch the next episode. There was no even attempt to try and do that this season, and that kind of sucks because there's, you want to get that binge watchability to it, but you just don't get it this season. Last season, like I said, you had a couple of episodes where you can binge watch, like I said, with those 5 episodes. This season, I couldn't binge watch more than 3 episodes because this season's so much more serious than the first season that it just takes it out of you, just watching 1 or 2 episodes. But I will say each episode gets better as the season progresses. Episode 1 was probably the worst episode, mainly because it doesn't have anything to do with season 2, I feel like. I mean, there is this whole thing with Kublai has to make this decision about killing the Chancellor's young heir, and he takes advice from Ahmed, and towards the end of the season, I think it was episode 10, there's a reference to him taking advice from Ahmed. Other than that, there's really no reason why that should have been the second season. It feels like something that was just left out of season 1 that they decided to throw into the beginning of season 2. Throw it into the first season because it's wrapping up the fall of the Song Dynasty. That should have been in season 1. I don't know why they started off in episode 1. Not a good way to start off the second season, especially for all those naysayers that were like, you know what, this show isn't all that great. Certainly wasn't going to get you to commit to the second season. It was pretty slow episode 2, and then towards the end of the episode they decided to have this random fight, and you're like, who the hell is this Chinese chick? And eventually towards the season they start explaining who she was, but just watching that first episode, you're like, who the hell is this? Why is she randomly thrown in here? We know nothing about her. Is it just for the sake of having some action in this episode? Because the entire episode was slow as hell. It was the slowest episode of the entire season, I think. In fact, I saw that first episode, and then it took me 2 days to actually get into the next episode because it just got me out of the mood of Marco Polo. I don't know why. But then again, at least it had a solid ending, and again, like season 1, and it sets up the following season. Season 3, we're gonna have more to do with the papacy. Good old papacy, they're coming. The Pope and Marco's father is going to be more involved, I think, in the upcoming season. But in all, season 2 is a better season. I still like some things about season 1 better than season 2. As long as no one's nitpicking all the problems, I think season 1 is more enjoyable simply because of all the action that takes place in season 2. They dial it down a bit and they try to tell a more dramatic side of the story. It's more personal and it's a lot more serious than the first season, so it's going to be a little bit slower to develop these characters and get you to care, because first season you're just watching a bunch of random guys fighting one another and you really don't care for any of the characters. I mean, I kind of cared for Thousand Eyes. I like that character. I still like that character. But the show is getting better. We'll see what happens in season 3 if it happens, because the show still hasn't been renewed. But it certainly looks like there will be. But we're just going to have to wait for season 3 to see what they have in store for us. I hope it gets better, because it has its moments, but you got to have a lot of patience to watch the show, I feel like. The show is not for everybody. Right now, all these shows that I'm watching, they're just testing my patience, and I do not want to waste time on shows, and be patient. I'm losing my patience with a lot of these shows. Outlander Season 2 started off promising and it's just losing a lot of steam, and I just can't keep up with that show. I think I'm like 4 episodes behind already. And don't even get me started on The Walking Dead. Watching 6 seasons of that show is going nowhere. So I don't want this to become another show that I'm just watching just to watch, to simply to see what ends up happening, but the show ends up going nowhere. So hopefully they fix all the issues with this show. Make these characters a little bit more interesting. Get Marco back into the scope of things, because can't have him sitting there on the sidelines unless we're going to change that name of the show. The Cons. So better come up with a solution to that and make season 3 even more better, because we're going to get the Pope involved in season 3. So no idea what the heck's going to be going on there, because they really, what kind of setup was that? I mean, season 1, you knew that there was going to be, at that end, with that ending, we knew there was going to be some kind of betrayal. This one, with season 2 ending, I don't even know. All I know is that the fucking Pope is coming. That's about it. So, we'll see where they go with that, and hopefully it's good. If it isn't, well, probably get canceled. So, yeah, that's my review of Marco Polo Season 2. If you saw this season, comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Hit that like button if you like this video. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time for more unboxings, reviews, and movie news.